Hi guys, Qui-Gon Jake here. And so with the Discord posting and with that and your guys' responses, we'll be doing a new campaign with the custom commanders with your uploaded custom avatars too. And so briefly, I'm going to go over that process, and then I'm also going to recap how the campaign went and things that I've learned, and things that we can improve upon in the next campaign to make it even better. So first off with the avatars. These are the default custom avatars, but we can still upload our own, so it's not like these are the only ones we have to choose from. Although there are some decent ones, obviously we want to see ourselves, not just these handful, less than a dozen. But one of the things also that you can do is with your commander, it's much more streamlined. This is so much easier than what I had to do. I'm very happy to see this. But one of the nice things that it does is that it really does streamline, and honestly it balances the attributes, because one of the things I did notice from our custom characters, the more experience they got, the more like hyper powerful like their commander abilities were. Like the amount of skill in these categories that we were accumulating was getting to the point where I was like, this might be like really overpowered. Like our commanders were on par with like some of the very famous Confederate generals, like Longstreet, and not quite Jackson or Stuart levels, but the very higher echelon commanders like Anderson and like I said, Longstreet, and several others, where it was like, we might be just a bit too good, and this is going to be a much fairer way of balancing the attributes in ways that we still want to be good, obviously, but maybe not that good. Obviously, I wouldn't want to be better than Robert E. Lee at commanding the Army of Northern Virginia. That's I don't want to be that good. Lee was in a whole nother bracket. Him, Jackson, Stewart were all way above what we mere mortals could hope to be. But yeah. So the way these attribute points will work, I don't know why it's 240 or even how much a single star is. I'm guessing it's 20. So yeah, I think it's 20 points per star is what this looks like. Age has no bearing on points. Whether or not you're politically assigned or you're a volunteer, or if you're a veteran. Obviously you can't be a veteran if you're too young, but that will impact your number of points. That's 20 points, it looks like. If you're a West Point graduate, let's see, okay, those are all the same. So if you want to be a West Point graduate with veteran experience, you'll have a lot more starting experience, but it will cost you 40 extra points. So yeah, I wish it was like a full star that you could do. You could be like this uber good leader with like no admin and as cunning as a rock. You can't touch fame, that's just based off of what you have. So, wow, okay, so with the points, even if you were to be all three of these, you could be 5-star initiative and 5-star leadership. I learned something new today. Or if you don't want to be a veteran, you could then be, have 20 points in administration. So, this will still allow us some good options for skills. So yeah, I'm very excited about this. Of course, your name, so in this case I was going to go with that. I would then just create, boom, there I am. And when we start a new campaign, those characters will be in the selection of commanders that we have to start with, so that's exciting. So on to what I've learned from the campaigns. Basically, a lot of what I have learned is, I don't know how to describe it besides not troop movements, but mostly it's weapon procurement right now. That was one of the biggest things I learned about early on. When I think early on I selected the project. Let me see if I can load up the campaign real quick. Should showcase what I mean. But when I started the campaign, I initially invested some of my military subsidies into the reboard muskets, and then proceeded, when I finally got those, to only order 5,000. There's a major, major problem with that. First and foremost, 5,000 is not even enough to equip 2 full brigades. I mean, if you have 2 brigades at 3,000 each, 5,000 muskets is kind of a joke. And so what I've learned from that is that when I start, I need to be, I'll need to assign way more rifles in initial orders. The second was an amendment to the Lorenz rifles that I early on criticized for not being that good. After doing a little bit of digging through the game's statistics and information, and then also with the newest patch with more updated information on weapons, the Lorenz rifle's actually pretty decent. Uncomfortably decent to my liking. But so for in this instance, we have 2.5 million of funding of necessary, whereas the British rifles that I want to get is twice that. But the Austrian rifles are the quickest and easiest rifles to procure. For example, then if we go to the Lorenz rifles, importing them, let's see if we go over 10,000, 67 days. Like that's, if I got that early on, that's some, 400 yard, I think they're pretty much as good as Springfields, aren't they? Let's find out. What's going on here? Oh, there we go. Let's see. Let's do, there we go. What's that what I'm looking for? Okay. So like the Springfields, 400 yards, mediocre, 3 rounds per minute. The Lorenz, 400 yards, mediocre, 3 rounds per minute. I mean, it's the same range. Enfield, 400 rounds, 3 per minute. These are all the same ballpark. The only difference is any level of standardization, which these are imports, so I don't know if they can really be standardized. That's another feature. The more standardized a weapon is, the quicker and cheaper it is to produce these things. So initially it's going to cost a lot and take a long time to deliver them, but the more of them we make, the easier it gets to make them. You can even see the price per unit. Like here you can see the Enfields are cheaper than the Lorenz rifles. In fact, the Enfields are the same price as the Springfield, 600 per rifle. Fayetteville's are slightly more expensive. The Richmond rifles are actually cheaper. $10 cheaper than the Enfields and Springfields. I'm just going to pull up some basic math. Let's see, if I were to order 10,000 rifles of each, that's like $1,000. No, if it's 10,000 rifles at 5.6 million, that would save me, what was that, $10 per gun? I can't do the math in my head. I think it would reduce it by maybe close to $1 million, maybe. Probably not that much, but definitely a tenth less. So yeah, basic stuff like that. Also, the reason for that really helps because otherwise the Fayetteville, which is longer range and still mediocre, is like, why wouldn't you just get that? It's because it costs $635 per gun, whereas the Richmond only costs $590. So there's going to be that balance of rifle procurement. Another thing I'm going to do this next time is to get the better artillery, because man, oh man, does it take a long time for artillery to get to the front lines. I mean, this is non-standardized 12-pounder Napoleons, and it's still expected to take 146 days. So there's stuff like that. I'm going to get that a lot earlier in the campaign. I've learned some things, Cavalry, probably not going to have many of us, if any of us, doing cavalry, because it's just such a niche realm that just doesn't really, there's not a lot of usefulness with cavalry. It's a very much of a, you might see action, but most likely not. And if you do, it's not guaranteed to be anything great. So yeah, that's kind of the two biggest things, is weapons projects, procuring rifles that are quality rifles. Rebore muskets are really not that. I mean, let's see where they are weapon-wise. Reboard muskets, where are you? Sure, they can shoot 400 yards, but they have much slower reload, and they're bad accuracy. They're really bad. So I'm not going to bother wasting my funds on that. Also, the reboard muskets have a knife as a, what is it? It's not even a bayonet. It's like a hunting knife. So that means its melee is significantly worse. Same with the Fayetteville. It's a saber, not a bayonet. So that means the melee is a lot worse. Whereas the Springfield rifles, the Enfields, the Lorenzes, the Richmonds, all those have actual bayonets, like they should. Like even the Model 1817s, although that's poor. Yeah, I wouldn't bother with those. So, but yep, that's what I've learned so far. I guess also a case in point of how overpowered our characters kinda were. You know, here's Longstreet, pretty decent. Here's Daniel Hill. You know, this is the cream of the crop. You got Jackson, you got Stewart, you got Lee, and then you have people like Pickett or Loring, and then there's us. Let's start with Blown. Let's start where I said. Here's Great. He's got insanely good, honestly a bit overpowered initiative and leadership, and he's just got one level of experience. There's multiple stars you can get, like up to at least 3, and that makes your stats even greater. So, pun intended. So his initiative could well be into the 4s and 3s at least with everything else, which is a little overpowered. Heck, even Jackson doesn't have a 3 in leadership, and he doesn't have 4 stars anywhere except for fame. Bacon didn't get as much action, which is why his stats are not as high, but still pretty good, you know. Let's see, Hasty got multiple 3s, and he only has 1 star. O'Dunn, 2 in cunning, but again, still very powerful. And then I didn't see a ton of action, in fact, very little if any, so my stats aren't really well reflected. But similar rule applies, this general rule of thumb, that just a little, slightly more skilled than we probably should have been. Not that I don't enjoy that, but I don't know. I don't want us to be as good as or better than some of the really amazing Confederate generals. I just don't feel like that's really fair. I don't want to play like we're better than everyone else. That's just my take on this campaign. So, but again, I definitely did still enjoy it, and we can always keep this campaign going if you guys decide you want to keep doing this instead. If the new one, for whatever reason, just doesn't really work as well. Standardization carries over, so I don't have to worry about that. But in terms of like, as you can see here, there's the custom character I created is not in this new game, so we couldn't add new commanders. So yeah, and I'm totally fine with you guys having 2 commanders if you want. One that does one that's your custom portrait, and a second one as like a if you want to have one for like Griffin's Guard or Finley's Finest, or anyone else who wants to have a second commander name after them. I'm totally fine with that. We'll just pick from the default custom portraits. So, just giving you guys an update on that as I am heading off to Flagstaff momentarily. I'll be gone until probably Thursday or Friday, so I won't be able to release any videos, but just wanted to post this before I head out, just to give you guys an update that, I kind of slowed down on this game because I was struggling in the West with some of the armies. I was testing out Army Command instead of doing everything manually, trying to see where the AI ordering would, how it would handle battles. Oh boy, I've got some learning to do, or the AI has just not great quality, or a combination of the two. But so that's kind of what I was doing, was a lot of testing. But if you guys have any questions or suggestions, definitely feel free to leave them in the Discord. Again, I won't be able to respond probably until I get back, but if you have any feedback or anything, definitely I'd love to hear it. So that's probably where we'll end this campaign. But there are lessons from the war, lessons learned that we'll be able to implement and make even better next time. So until then, I will see you guys then, and I really appreciate all you guys having watched the campaign and all your support. It really meant a lot to me. So until next time, I'll see you then.